Mr. President, and your team, nobody has told you that the real problem you have is that Kenyans have lost trust in you.
These people don't understand the damage they are doing to the people and the economy of Kenya. Kwa hii taxes wanaongeza usiku na mchana. Na mimi nataka niwaulize watu wa hapa Manga, tafadhali, mkiona tumesimama hapa mbele yenu, tunawaambia ya kwamba tutengeneze hiyo serikali inakuja ambayo inaelewa lugha ya mwananchi wa kawaida.
We don't believe you. We don't trust you. And there is nothing as bad as a trust deficit, a trust deficiency. Kutoaminika, hamuaminiki.
Reuben Kigame, gospel artist, entrepreneur, and presidential candidate who was robbed of his right to run for president in Kenya's 2022 general elections, sets the tone for our commentary today. The king is naked. There are those amongst us who have greatness thrust upon them. But some seize greatness. President Ruto seized greatness, seized the moment. And even though the election results remain shrouded in mystery, the man got the coveted seat.
I, William Samoei Ruto.
Born into poverty, Ruto drove the hustler narrative hard and carried the masses with him against the Uhuru Raila axis that his campaign painted as an extension of the privileged Kenyatta and Odinga dynasties.
Nyinyi mkinipima, nyinyi munione hii sura yangu, mimi ninakaa mtu ambaye naweza kuibiwa kura mkiniona.
In the end, the son of a poor man, dogged by early childhood poverty and often described as a chicken seller, earned his place at the royal table, becoming king in his own right by his own terms. But is King Ruto really in touch with the very hustler base that put him in office? The hustler nation whose lives he vowed to improve against Uhuru's ferocious Jubilee regime? Or is the king naked, consumed by the power of his office, and surrounded by a cohort of cheerleaders who won't tell the king the hard truth about his leadership and the pain it's inflicting on hustlers, on Kenyans? Can the president and his entire Kenya Kwanza brigade be trusted to deliver Kenyans out of the harsh economic times and political mischief that have bedeviled the nation?
I assume as President of Kenya.
Join us on this reflection of President Ruto's first year in office. This is Africa, our business. Remember to subscribe, share, and ring that bell.
Ladies and gentlemen, His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya.
Wacheni kiburi, wacheni madharau, wacheni matusi, endeni mupange mambo ya serikali. Bei ya mafuta imepanda, wananchi wanataka iteremuke.
During the 2022 general elections, President Ruto emerged as the true Machiavelli of Kenyan politics, winning a court battle that installed him as head of state.
We declare the election of the first respondent as president-elect.
But the legitimacy of that win remains in question, setting up the country to endless street demos by his strongest opponent, Raila Odinga, whose loss, despite his proximity to then President Kenyatta, has been described by pundits as the biggest political blunder. Quite frankly, the Azimio team simply slept on the job.
We are going to have elections of the party.
But even with his win, the president and his Kenya Kwanza team, it appears, have never quite settled down, constantly on campaign mode and bickering about the past regime. Kenyans just want results.
2 days before the elections, they stole 6 billion. When there was a case before Supreme Court, they stole another 10 billion.
Meanwhile, the church and state have engaged in an unholy alliance where the narrative of Sio Uchawi, ni maombi, has been used to blind Kenyans to the schemes of state.
Mzunguke hapa kiwanja hii yote, Karabashanda, nini, kila mahali.
The first, second and third estate were at the very core of bread riots that deposed the French monarchy centuries ago. Much like the French monarch, Kenya's president is seemingly blind to the plight of hustlers, surrounded by men who previously spoke against state capture, but today are the very epitome of that state capture.
Mr. Speaker, as they were enjoying, as they were making merry, as the deep state was celebrating, as the system was celebrating, suddenly, and I say suddenly, there is going to be a war in this country. There is going to be a writing on the wall. Many, Tekel and Parisi.
Those who doubt our resolve, try monkey business. You will live to regret for a very, very long time.
The president is currently in the US, and the one thing he's achieved is winning hearts on the diplomatic front. Critics believe it is nothing but schemes with Western powers, who were undoubtedly too present and too available during the disputed vote tallying at Bomas.
The elections were observed by international and local election organizations, and the results were upheld by the Kenyan Supreme Court, and power was transferred orderly and peacefully at the time.
1 year after that election, President Ruto and Kenya Kwanza have very quickly betrayed hustlers on the one agenda that connected them with the public.
Tuko na matatizo kwa sababu ya mambo ya taxes ambayo inaongeza bei ya mafuta.
Walete bill next week waangushe bei ya mafuta. Hiyo sisi wabunge 150 wenye tuko mlengo wa naibu wa rais tutaunga mkono, na waondoe hiyo maneno ya kuongeza kodi katika mafuta.
Now this was Kenya Kwanza in their best element of 1 year ago. This is Kenya Kwanza today, gloating and spinning narratives.
Sasa ukishinda kutoka ya asubuhi mpaka jioni, bei ya mafuta imeongezeka, si uchipe kisima yangu.
Under this backdrop, can the president and his team be trusted to make meaningful change for ordinary Kenyan lives? The president's economic advisor, David Ndii, was recently rebuked for alleged arrogance. But is Ndii really merely arrogant? Or is it that his words point to something that ordinary Kenyans cannot read? And essentially, David Ndii is suggesting to Kenyans that if you believe politicians, then you better do so at your own peril. Certainly, Ndii cannot be taken lightly on the matter, considering that he's sitting front row in Ruto's government, observing the machinations of statecraft.
Government is extremely wasteful. There is not a single day that I'm not exasperated by not just how wasteful it is, but by how deliberate it is and how unbothered people are.
Kenyans have lost trust in government. So that even when you talk about housing, when you talk about this new bill, and it is all about more money, more taxes, more this and more that, we don't want to pay that money until the real questions are answered. Where have all these funds gone? Where have the trillions gone? Now, another thing is, we know, and the international media has even picked it up, that as soon as monies are borrowed, There are Kenyans that hide that money in offshore accounts. We know there are a few Kenyans that have tons, billions upon billions in offshore accounts. The so-called Pandora Papers. You know that, Mr. President. And as Kenyans, we know something is wrong because we are broke and all you can do is ask us for more money.
So the begging question is, will President Ruto make life better for Wanjiku? Will the men and women around the president advise him accordingly? To whom much is given, much is expected. Please share your thoughts below. You may agree, you may disagree. But at this point, really, we are beyond Azimio or Kenya Kwanza. Collectively, Kenya is our business, all of us. So subscribe and help us change the narrative, one story at a time, one subscriber at a time. This is Africa, our business. Many thanks for watching and see you on the other side.